Greetings, family. This is Iya Dia Nunez with the H20 Network. I am sitting with my elder, Oba Ernesto Pichardo, which you knew. And we have a guest this evening, Babalawo Antonio Mondesire, who is a Babalawo for many, many years and who is a well-respected elder in the community in New York City. We have all gathered here this evening to talk about something that's very important. For all of you all who have not seen the reading of the year that me and Oba Ernesto Pichardo did, we are going to be breaking things apart that are very important in accordance to Baba Ejiogbe, which the ruling Orisha is Yamaya. Very, very heavy letters that have been coming. But we need to get things on the piper, and this is why I brought my elders together to speak about this to the Lukumi family, humanity at large. Every year, the elders of all indigenous tradition, Lukumi tradition, we throw the shells, the womb from the universe to see the increase and decrease of the energy on planet Earth. And what we as individuals have to deal with, what we as a community have to deal with, and what the humanity at large has to deal with. So we're going to be speaking about one of those elements, and one of them is the ecosystem, the environment, and the essence of respect. Lukumi people, you know that Baba Ejiogbe deals with many elements, but one is respect on many different levels of reality, not just with our elders, with ourselves, but outside of ourselves. So we're going to be speaking about the environment. Yamaya was very specific in nature. If you go back to Center for Community Knowledge and Oba Ernesto Pichardo's page and look at the letters and what came, one of the things was the environment. So this evening we're going to be talking about these things. Welcome, elders. Welcome, Baba Mondesire, and welcome, Oba Ernesto Pichardo.
Thank you. It's very good to be here. Please.
Go on. Well, first, I on behalf of our programming, I want to also personally welcome you to our little round table here, where we focus on a lot of different themes throughout the year, and it's a pleasure to have you here, not only because you're a Lukumi priest of Obatala, but also because you're an ordained priest of Ifa, Barumila, so you have a little added aspect there as well. So today we have the Babalawo, and we also have the Obaliate, that's little old me, what's left of me. And so we got a good team here today, and let's go for it, and welcome to our exchanges, Abure. It's a pleasure to have you here. Go on and
well, thank you very much. I jumped the gun because I guess it's the adrenaline, but I'm very honored to be with you both. You're doing the work, and the work these days is about changing our thought processes and our paradigms. Because if we haven't noticed, Mother Earth is in a very interesting process, and I think she's asking us to participate more proactively and being advocates for her. And it's just amazing how the Odu of the year, the same Odu came out in 3 different locations with the same messages in Yemaya ruling. We're expecting
that is extraordinary, actually.
It is
extraordinary. That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Actually, there's no precedent to this. This is the first time ever since we've been recording or tracking and documenting these annual forecasts that had all the main areas are coming up with the same sign throughout, and with the same divinity, which is Yemaya, and her domain is the ocean. So it's an unprecedented presence in 2 ways, not just because of the sign, but also because of the deity that's ruling.
Yes. We've had this conversation before, and I've reflected on that, like you too, Dia. And if we look at the larger picture, Mother Earth is really coming through and requesting nicely now for us to upgrade our perception and perspective of her. You know, it's really interesting that we upgrade our digital devices, we upgrade our software. We're very familiar and comfortable with this idea of upgrading. But when it comes to our philosophical point of view, our ecological awareness, I think we need to upgrade also. And it's inspired me to just put some thoughts on paper and to craft our conversation where we can begin the upgrade process gently. You see, if we just review the last couple of years, people have been forced to upgrade because of major natural disasters. Who wants to upgrade that way? That's like Mother Nature and God say, you know what, folks? Get it together. Here, have a Sandy storm. Have a Fukushima nuclear quasi-meltdown. So, we're not doomsdayers here. Let's read the signs. The sign, the Urdu, the cosmic message, 3 different places, as Oba mentioned, statistically is not precedented. Let's read those signs and start to upgrade now before major upgrades, major situations force us to upgrade in a very abrupt way. Does that make sense to, is that making sense? The way I'm expressing this?
Well, yeah, well, what my take on what you're saying is, we're having to do it on the basis of being reactionaries because Mother Nature's reacting. So when we have a storm, when we have a tsunami, when we have the earthquakes and the tornadoes, and when we have our own human caused meltdowns, right? Faulty equipment, faulty emergency systems like what we saw now in recently days ago in Atlanta and yes. Through Atlanta, Mississippi, 2 inches of snow, excuse me, a mere 2 inches of snow paralyzed the entire city for over 24 hours, which was unnecessary. A lot of people died in the roadway because of these things.
Yes.
It just doesn't make any sense, right? So we have the natural and not only the natural, but the stuff that we as humans continue to ignore and disrespect, which is the negative side of the annual forecast, the continued disrespect for what is natural, what is the essence of everything, and then we expect things to go well. Well, they're not going to because we're not paying attention. We're not doing anything about it. Everything is measured in these weird statistical ways, and even in terms of finances, right? So yes. We don't want to invest in repairing the faulty equipment. We don't want to buy the extra ambulance that we need. We don't want to buy the extra fire truck that we need. We don't want to, like you said, upgrade our training, right? The training of the personnel. People want to cut back on emergency services. People want to cut back with all this austerity nonsense. They're not budgeting correctly and putting the priorities of safety for the population up front and making the emphasis on that. They'd rather spend the money or in some other nonsense that is not emergency related. So it's kind of like the logic is going backwards here for some reason. You know, they're thinking backwards. That's kind of like my take on what you're saying. Is that about right?
Yeah. Before we could see the lightness of day, I think some of the contradictions and idiosyncrasies of our present society are rising to the surface for us to really see. You know, Baba Yoga as an Urdu is a cosmic indicator. Let's put it that way, a cosmic indicator. is really shining light on stuff that has to be changed. Because the idea of Baba Yobe as rising in the east, as daylight, as the daybreak, as sunrise, well, if we really work with this idea, we're faced with a new day coming. And I don't want to sound too new agey, but I do want to think that we're headed to a brighter, more holistic, more integrated way of living. But before we get there, the Urdu is shining a light on the contradictions and idiosyncrasies of our society. For us to look at and say, you know what? This stuff has got to be dealt with. Sorry, the phone is ringing in the background. Okay, my wife picked it up.
No worries.
Life. Let's look at this stuff. Does it get you upset? Is it getting your attention? It's illogical. It's not humane. When are you guys going to change? So, if we're intelligent and wise, maybe we shouldn't want to have to hide under the bed when we see the news at night. Maybe we should start to talk about these things instead of just the Super Bowl and who's upgrading to the new software. You see? Some of the stuff that really is not intelligent. Like, for example, what gets me going, and my wife too, is Fukushima nuclear power plant quasi-meltdown. Do we really need nuclear power plants? You know, Germany's prime minister said no more nuclear power plants in our country. They're moving towards solar energy. Matter of fact, they're at the top of the food chain in producing solar technology in Europe. We should be talking about that at the kitchen table. See? So, there's a list of other examples.
Well, can I say something, Baba? Because I'm listening to you and Oba, and it seems to me, looking at the letters of the year that came prior and the prior before that, it was like the bullhorn was I guess sounded towards our cognitive dissonance. And it seems as if, last year we had Obatala. It's like, yo, check it out. You need to stop being having cognitive dissonance about your reality. Now we are receiving the reciprocity of our cognitive dissonance as individuals, as a larger community at large, because now we are getting the negative osobo reciprocity from nature. You spoke of Fukushima. All of that radioactiveness is now in Yemaya's waters, the mother, the womb. It is now being currented towards certain shores. Science has put out scientific journals to show the sickness of the fish, but and people are still in a place of cognitive dissonance. However, some are not. The examples go on and on. So it seems that now this year we are getting the reciprocity of what our cognitive dissonance is, whether that's the environment, whether that's disrespect with our elders, whether that's disrespect with nature itself. We are getting the negative osobo of what we put out. And what's interesting is that people perceive that it's actually something or someone else doing something to them, but it's actually their own consciousness, because Obatala spoke about this the year before, talked about mental instability within society. Now we're here, we're standing here, and all of these things are happening. So I don't know if I'm on the right track, but is that what is going on? You see percolating on now in society at a higher degree?
Yes, you said the key word, and I'm grateful you said it. Cognitive dissonance, where something could be going on that absolutely does not make sense, absolutely does not help the human condition, but we go along with it as business as usual. And we accept it, and it's like we shrug our shoulders. But now, the spotlight is being put on cognitive dissonance so strong, it's like, do you get it now? Do you get it now? Polluting the waters that you drink? Does that make sense? Who's planning for 7 generations ahead? This is your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, our society, only decades from now. If you continue this, will you survive? So the contradictions and the idiosyncrasies that we all know about, and we're seeing more and more in current events, we have to talk about this stuff. See, everybody's talking about the Super Bowl yesterday, and the latest upgrade on the iPhone, the iPad, and the new mayor of New York City. But wait a minute, 18 states in the United States are in drought conditions.
And I'm in one of them. I'm in Colorado. I'm in Colorado, and it is dire need. It is a state of emergency. I've never experienced anything like this in my life with the drought, with water restrictions. And let me ask you, elders, is the reason why the light is being shined on this cognitive dissonance, and correct me if I'm wrong, Baba Ejiokwe does speak about being logical, being unlogical, being rational versus being irrational, and this is why the increase of the light being shined on the mental instability, the mental illness of individuals and humanity is in greater increase.
Yeah, I have to say, I have to agree with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead,
the sign is, when we speak of light, when we speak of the east, we speak of the symbol of the sun.
Yes.
And when we, in our tradition, when we get our minds around the various meanings, if you will, or descriptors for the sun, what it really reduces itself to is the idea of revelation.
That's
the one word. That's the one. It reduces itself to that one word, revelation. So,
yes.
What is it revealing? What is it showing us, right? Well, it's showing us a path that we can take individually of changing our mindsets and focusing in a manner in which we're being responsible and respectful to the nature of the planet. It's not just the water. In other words, what I see here, the teaching here is on the positive, on the constructive side, if you will, right, of the blessings side of the sign. What it's saying, what it's revealing to us is that it's making us go back to basics in our thought processes. It's taking us back to saying, look, this is the sign where we as priests, and priestess says, you know, what do we do when we greet each other? We go like this, you know, we cross our arms like this. This is how we greet each other. In other words, for those that have been kind of brainwashed by other interests, what that means is that we're greeting each other with the symbol of infinity. Modern science didn't come up with this sign, you know. Or did we borrow that from modern science or Western society? This is something that is very part of our cultural tradition. So, if that's the case, what are we symbolizing? What are we doing? However, it's not a question of what are we doing just off and on with our lives that is constructive or negative, destructive. It brings us to the fundamental point that the sun also deals with your mindset, with your head, with your mind, with your way of thinking.
Your ego.
Right? It's all cognitive. Yeah, it's totally cognitive. So it's saying, look, you can cross your arms and greet someone out of respect in our religion and all that's fine, but where's your mind? Are you doing this out of robotics? Or are you crossing those arms and greeting another elder or another person truly in the context of consciousness that you're supposed to be doing it with. If you're doing it just to, it's the polite thing or the protocol and keep on moving is one thing. If you're turning on your internal light when you do that, then you're projecting that energy upon the person in which you're emanating the symbol to, and then that person in reciprocity does it for you. So there is an equilibrium of energy being taken at that moment, right? Where it's connecting. And again, it's telling us we are all interconnected. So interconnected doesn't just mean your outer energy. It has to be your mind. Where is your mind? If you're doing these kinds of gestures out of protocols or politeness or diplomacy, but your mind is not going with it, then what are you really accomplishing it? You're not accomplishing a darn thing. In other words, it becomes purely a materialistic gesture that is not in alignment with one's spirituality, nor is it in harmony with the balance and spiritual harmony of others. This sign says you have to go back to respecting thyself. It starts with the self. We're not respecting ourselves. So, how is an example of how are we not respecting ourselves? It was saying very simple. We'll go to the beach, like you said, Buddha, this was Super Bowl weekend. All right, well, how many people went to, in warm areas like down here in Miami, because we're sitting here at 80 degrees, how many people went out and did a picnic with friends or family this weekend in the spirit of the Super Bowl? Quite a bit. Beaches down here were quite full during the day. If you drive by there and you just sit there for about an hour observing, you'll see what this annual sign is talking about. You're going to see people here along our coastline. I would say that every 10 yards at most, 5 to 10 yards apart throughout the entire coastline, you have city waste tanks there, so that you can just go and throw your waste away right there, not without doing much walking, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that's not what's happening. You see people that right where they're doing their little picnic event, they're throwing the plastics right there that's getting into the water. They're throwing their beer caps, right onto the sand or right into the water. You see so you see the glass being thrown in there.
Yes.
We're seeing all this cardboard and other junk, right? All this waste, including if they're eating chicken or whatever, or ribs, then you see them throw the ribs right there, right on the sand or right into the water. So you're seeing them that spot becomes a total polluted dumping ground for the insanity of humanity at that moment. Yeah. And they cannot connect what the chilling effects of that contamination is. They're not connected to the ocean. In other words, they connect to the ocean visually. Mm-hmm. They connect to the ocean as they feel the breeze. But spiritually and mentally, they can't seem to connect. They're not there. They're not there. Not really. It is a total disconnect. And that is in a way of sampling, right, what the annual forecast is, what the idea of the sun is, right? It's the idea of the sun is enlightenment. It's not dark. It's not a principle of darkness. It's not the principle of the sun equals rationale, right?
Yes.
Sanity. It is not chaos. It is not insanity. It is order. It is not chaos.
Yes.
And when we speak of order in this sign, as part of the essential to the idea of respect, order is what? Is respecting the natural harmony or balance of all things. So if we as priests and priestesses in the society is not respecting themselves first, they're going to disrespect everything else that's before them. So the illness here, or the problem here, I say that every sign does, in fact, have a progenitor. Yes. And in this case, in this conversation, we're saying that the human people, humanity is acting in a way as the chaotic component, as the chaos, as the irrational progenitor.
Yes.
We're acting like the irrational progenitor. And then here comes the annual sign and puts the sun out before us and says, look, can you see? Because you need to see. It's like you keep walking in the middle of a wilderness without a flashlight or something, and then here comes the sun and says, okay, now you can see where you're going, right? Okay, now can you figure out how to walk without damaging the forest?
Yes.
And so in a way, the sign comes back, right, in front of us and says in this time, let me shed light on where the essence of the problem is, right? And the essence of the problem is the I am, the personal individual disconnect that is disrespecting themselves constantly, therefore unable to see how to respect that which is the other. And we're doing that in our human relations. How many, let's look at it in the context of all these wars that we're getting ourselves into, right?
Yes.
How many more times do we have to watch this sad movie? It's a sad movie where leaders, a handful of leaders in two different countries get annoyed at each other. It has nothing to do with the people. It has to do with those that are in the decision makers in the societies. They get into their little schoolyard quarrels, and then it ends up pressing buttons of war. And why? Why? And then when we look at how this mass destruction of the environment in that process, because we don't see that in TV news.
Right.
What we see is the rocket launchings, and what we see is the lynchings and the bullets and the explosions, right? And the dead and the injured. We see that picture, but they don't show us what's happening how are they contaminating that country or that region's water supply. When you've got that amount of bombs going and that amount of bullets flying and all this kind of stuff, plus what they put in the ground to blow each other up as they drive by, right? They're leaving all those heavy metals and all those toxics in the ground, which is going to, if at least indirectly, is going to, sip into our water supply, into the water supply. So nobody sees the consequences of what that looks like, There's no breaking news later that's going to go back and take samples of the water supply in those areas of war where you still have civilians walking around, little babies, women having babies that same day of the bombing. We're not looking at all that other human factor side of it. We're just seeing the aggressive insanity, warfare, kill mentality, right? Yes. Who's killing more of each other? And we play it like if that was a football game, as if that was a football game. And so, it's like, when you boys and girls, schoolyard quarrel, when you all get through beating each other up, because nobody wins in a war. When you get through with that, and you've self-destructed each other.
Yeah.
What did you leave behind for those that are still living and those to come? In the context of the environment.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Precisely.
What's in that? What did you leave behind in that soil? What did you leave behind in the atmosphere that is also coming down, not only directly in your breathing, but what's flying around in that space that's also exactly what your plants are also breathing, what your fruits and vegetables are also breathing. You're contaminating your food supply right then and there. And there's no news stories about that.
That's right.
So, and all of that, and then here comes the rain, so it's going to wash off some of these contaminants off the leaves of the trees, of the plants, of your vegetables or whatever, then that further contaminates via rain, contaminates your tap water, your oceans, and what have you. And then that's the ocean that you want to go to on a weekend with your blinded selfishness to have a barbecue, to eat some ribs or whatever, to drink beer. So then you're there totally unconscious of what we're talking about. There's nothing that connects people to this. And then on top of that, they're polluting and adding more junk to it. So I think that for those people that are spiritual, regardless of whether they're in our religion or not, but those people that believe in spirituality have to really look at what is this year, what is that teaching of the principle of light and respect? What are they really saying? What is being revealed, not only on a world stage, but starting with the self, and how is that applicable? To what degree is it applicable within one's geography? Where do you live? What is happening? What is going on with your surroundings? Right?
Yes.
And that's one way that people can connect to what we're talking about, I think. They don't have to worry about every day's TV news, what happens in some other continent, but at least they can worry about the sanity, the order, right? The enlightenment, the principle of light within the area where they live, their neighborhoods, their own homes. What's happening in your backyard? What is happening to your area, to the clean air that you're breathing out there when you go outside of your home in the morning? How clean is that? Because all of that stuff ultimately gets sucked up into the water.
Mm-hmm.
Everything ultimately goes back to Mother Nature, right? As we say, the divinity Yemaya, which means mother of all fish, right? Yeah. Okay, fine. So if the mother and everything that is basically comes from, in physical form, from the depth of that ocean, and then it evolves until it becomes land creatures and what have you, what are we throwing in there? What are we really contributing to what is evolving and continues to evolve in the depth of the ocean and in the depth of our Great Lakes and what have you? What's happening to that marine life? We've been killing that in impressive numbers and speed, right? Look at the Gulf.
That's right.
Most of the Gulf right now, because of the oil and contaminants by Dow and other companies, this is known. The contamination is so huge and has been going on for such a long time that most of the Gulf right now is a dead zone.
What about Nigeria?
So,
In Nigeria, people, when the Gulf happened, Oba and Baba Mondesire, a lot of people in America were like, oh, this is the greatest tragedy known to man. And I thought to myself, well, obviously you guys haven't done your research, because in Africa and a lot of places in South America, they've been dumping oil into the waters for longer than the Gulf even came about. So what is the repercussions of that? And I was just reading a scientific journal, not a newscast. I'm talking about a scientific journal about oceanography and how the ecology, due to not just the Gulf, but Nigeria and all of these other places where it's literally changing the environment. It's changing not only the Yemaya's fish children, but it's changing the current of the way that the ocean flows. All of these things are connected. I could go on and on, but
well, the water. If you're tampering with the great oceans, then you are tampering with the land, if you will, the above balance of things. So it's got the heat. You're messing with our heat. You're messing with the whole. You've got, of course, people continue to challenge and make a mockery out of climate change. Well, don't make a mockery out of it, because it's happening and we are contributing to it. Look, one thing here is Mother Nature re-regulating itself, which is normal, natural, evolutionary process of our planet, right? That's one thing. Another thing is, what are we doing as contributors in an extreme state, which then becomes a vicious circle? Because if we add to it, then Mother Nature has to further regulate and calibrate. So the more contaminants and the more nonsense that we do to our own planet, the planet is going to have to react to it, and it's going to have to recalibrate itself. And it's having to do this in ways which you have to ask yourself, where's the breaking point? Why are we self-inflicting this problem upon ourselves beyond the natural evolutionary process of the planet? Look, we're in this consciousness of pointing fingers all the time and not assuming any darn responsibility. And that is part of what the annual Odu is speaking about. It is the idea of thyself and the idea of respecting thyself. Yes. You have to take responsibility. So in a society like ours, with the technological advances that we have, what are we doing? It's like, Baba, what you're saying as far as upgrades. Yeah, but what are we upgrading to?
That's the problem.
That's what comes to my mind. What are we upgrading to? Now, you said upgrade in a very, very interesting and correct manner, right? But that's not what we're seeing, right? I think that we can go like, what are we upgrading to? More iPads and stuff like that. I just read like you said, a scientific report a couple of days ago, where those little iPad kind of gadgets for children, for toys, that the plastics and the stuff that's in it is actually toxic.
Yes.
For children.
Yes.
So we can say, okay, what are we upgrading to in that context, in that example, right? Well, we're saying, okay, the child superficially is upgrading because they now have this technology. So their minds are going faster and they're developing and all this other stuff and blah, blah, blah. Okay, we can create our own false imaginary about, does this raise the child's IQ or whatever. Okay, when you're done with that psychological race and justification, ask yourselves, in the meantime, What's happening? Because you're putting this contaminated, highly toxic product in the child's hands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How is this affecting the kid? So
Yes.
Your mind is, we're progressing because this new innovative gadget, who at the same time is contaminating and degrading the well-being of the child.
Yeah.
There's that dual conflict going on there, right?
Cognitive dissonance.
Exactly. So we have to be looking at, really think, right? Rethink. What are we doing and what are we justifying under this intense short attention span disorder that people are going through? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did we get into somehow multitasking is the ideal psychological state of being?
Right.
All of a sudden, the ideal human is the person that can multitask in during numerous things at the same time. How's that?
Yes.
And they're doing this 8 hours a day. I'm not talking about doing it for an hour or something. I'm talking about doing this stuff 8 hours a day or more. Right? So all of a sudden, this idea of multitasking also includes multitasking with your spouse, with your boyfriends and girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
So if we go to an ideal place is Starbucks, right? You go to these Starbucks and you sit there. I've done this. I've sat in these Starbucks. And something that's very common there. What do you say? You're looking at it as what you're seeing as human robotics.
Mm-hmm.
Human robotics. People are coming in. They already know what coffee or what they're going to eat. They come in. It's a split-second view of who's there or what's there, because they're focused on getting right to that counter to order.
Mm-hmm.
They quickly order whatever it is that they want. There's no socialization, or at least at minimum, with anyone else while they get their orders. And by the time they go and you look at people sitting down in the tables, those that are already consuming whatever they purchase, these people are totally disconnected from each other.
Oh,
they're either on that iPad, they're either on social networks, or they're reading their newspapers or whatever through their iPads and computers because, hey, come on over, we've got Wi-Fi. So now all these kinds of people do not wake up in the morning and socialize with their neighbor and have breakfast with their neighbor. They don't have, they don't have really, breakfast with their family. I'm out of here. I'm running late. They're always running late. I gotta leave, right? This anxiety level. They've got to leave. Well, you didn't have any breakfast. Oh no, that's okay. I'll get something through the drive-through. Well, you've disconnected from your peers or your family member or your spouses. You've done that already because you can't even have a coffee with them in the morning. You're already getting out of the house all stressed out over the fact that you still haven't made it to the coffee shop and you're dying to have some coffee because you're not even making the coffee at home.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, who's got time for that? But then you got time to stop at Starbucks and order it through the drive-thru? It's totally weird. And then on top of that, it's like, my God, what they're charging for these things, you could have had a full meal in a Cuban restaurant here in Miami. A full course meal. I don't understand. And then, what are they doing when they're doing that? Well, they're contributing an awful lot to this contamination of the environment.
Yeah.
All these takeout stuff, they're all in plastics. All that stuff is in plastics. So where does that wind up at?
Yeah.
It's going to end up in some landfill somewhere, right? And then, so we're contaminating the soil and just putting more soil on it. Just keep creating our own mountains, right? Waste. That stuff isn't gonna, it's not biodegradable. That stuff is not gonna break down.
Yeah. For hundreds of years.
And the heat of it is contaminating the soil.
And
because on top of that, we're putting all that garbage, and on top of that, we're putting all that garbage inside of a larger plastic bag, right? Our trash bag.
Yep.
And that's how we believe we're doing this. The other thing is, a lot of that stuff gets put on cargo ships and taken out of the ocean and dumped.
Dumped
right?
in the ocean.
And dumped.
Or sent to other countries.
And so, in an alarming rate of numbers of that stuff just floating, that literally will go around the planet several times in a circle in the amount of junk that we've been dumping out there. So it's back to
fish.
Right. So it's not what you're doing here. The Starbucks, that Starbucks stuff, as an example, right? A lot of that stuff ends up in your water. It ends up in your ocean. So it's back to our most precious, a very precious aspect of our environment, which is our ocean. It's become a polluted. It's become a dumping ground for everybody, right? And constant contamination. And then we go around saying that we're spiritual people and that is the divinity Yemaya's space. And I don't get it because it's a huge contradiction. And I want to make a little statement regarding our own people, right?
Yeah.
It is not possible. I don't easily accept it. It's just not rational. Back to what the Odu is saying, right? It's not logical. I can't see how they could make the case. Look, how can you go to one of our religious events, social religious events, like a drumming event, and then here comes people that are there, and then some are enter the trance or the possession, rather, the possession state of the deity Yemaja. So at that moment, you have the presence of the divine, right? And then some people go, oh my gosh, we're in the presence of the divine and they're trying to be respectful and, okay, fine. They're not connecting the presence of that divine through the human possession with where that force, that energy comes from in the first place. What is the domain of that divine possession? See, we're so Western toxic, is so deep in our own minds that we cannot break away from the consciousness of materialism. We can't break away from it. It's in there. It's incredible. So you're going, all right. So you say that you are, Ifa or a Risha worshiper, and this is a nature-based religion. It is, theoretically speaking, it is. But again, how about thyself? Is your behavior, is your mindset, is your lifestyle respectful of that? That becomes the big question mark here, I think. And no, the answer is no, not really. In most instances, the question is no, not really.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that you're going to go and visit like they do. I'm going to go visit Yemaya at the ocean. I want to see Mama in nature. All right? What do they do when they go there? They take non-degradable, non-biodegradable things and pollute Mama's house. So this is like having a creepy, crazy little twisted-minded child, right? It's like please forgive my retarded child. He's not well. He's on meds.
That's what's going on.
The boy's on meds. The boy's on meds. He does go. He's. That's why he's got a psychiatrist, and he's on meds. You see? And, what can I say? They let him out for 3 hours on the weekend to come and visit me. I'm mom. And, the kid's going to break something. The kid is going to urinate on my living room. The kid is going to get up like a pet dog and, poop on my chair. He's going to drink water. He's going to start laughing. He's going to laugh, and he's going to drink Coca-Cola or something, one of these soft drinks, and he's going to drink some of that, and then he's just going to burp it right out and spray my walls. I have to repaint them later. But what the heck? And then he's also going to come in with a box of toys, isn't it? My little twisted mental ill boy is going to come in with a box of toys. And inside those toys, he's going to have like crayons, because the child's got to have crayons, isn't it? So all of a sudden the child goes to the restroom, and when I come out of the restroom, because he was taking too long and I was wondering what's going on, and then Mama went over there and knocked on the child. Are you okay? Oh yeah, I'm doing great. When Mama opens the door, the kid had taken some crayons, and there's this whole wall of graffiti on the wall that she's going to have to somehow get rid of, right? Clean it up. And then the boy went and defecated, but he threw his toilet paper on the floor or over into the shower. Why flush it? No need to do that, right? Because I got a little unfortunate little twisted boy that can't think straight. And then at the end of the day, after all of this run around destructive activity of the child, you say, did you have fun today? Oh, Mom, I can't wait to see you next weekend. I'd love to see you, Mom. It's all coming from the heart, Mom. I really love you. Thank you for bringing, me to life. Thank you for thinking and loving me every week, although I'm at the hospital. But you're always showing up. You're always bringing me goodies. You're always bringing me upgraded stuff. You brought me the latest, most delicious dessert. The latest little funky food. Ma, you're so great. I love you. You're always so giving. What would I do without you? Well, I tell you what she could do without you. Stop killing your mother. Can you stop contaminating? Can you stop putting disease on your mom? Can you stop trying to kill your mom? Can you stop trying to kill your mom? Because that's what you're doing all the time. Naughty little twisted child here comes over to, every weekend trying to contaminate and trying to kill Mom. I love you so much, Mom. I love you so much, Mom. Mom, give me your blessings. I love you.
But I have to say something, and I'm speaking your words, Oba, because we talked about this. You have to tell the people the reciprocity of that and the unlogical, should I say, result of that. Because it's not, what you're saying is so on point, but what's even more interesting is that the same sick child will go to the mother and ask for a bowl to be healed when they're just receiving the reciprocity that they gave to the mother to begin with. And what I mean by this, family, is you go to the beach, you contaminate the beach. What happens? That water comes up and grabs all that contamination and pulls it into the sea. What happens? Yemaya's children eat that. What happens after that? The fisherman, if you will, goes to the water, gets the lobster, gets the fish, and what happens after that? You are going to the market to buy the same lobster or fish that you contaminated 6 months ago, 10 months ago, a year ago, maybe a month ago, and you're taking it to your house, you're eating, you're doing all of these things, you're gluttony, and you're having such a good time. 10 years, 15 years down the road, you get some type of cancer, And then you have to sit in front of the mother and be like, oh, mama, I have this illness, I have that. And she's looking at you like, really? You see?
I need to say, duh.
Exactly. It is the reciprocity of the infinity of that figure 8, that Baba Ejiokbe. I'm just giving you.
I can get you.
Indeed, I'm just giving you the love that you thought you were giving me, my child. I'm just giving you the reciprocity of the love that you thought you were giving me, but you were really giving me Osobo. You had all the best intentions in the world. However, sometimes our good intentions can turn bad.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what's going on. We're now looking at the reciprocity. And I'll add another example to what you're saying in another context. I was officiating in the ordination of a priest. And at the critical moment of where everyone's putting their blessings upon the new priest, here comes this priestess. And she's in her late 40s, early 50s. And she stands before the new priest and she starts out with, May Yemaya, precisely, that was what was going on. She goes, May Yemaya give you everything in the world that she has given me. That was the first line of blessings that she laid out to the new ordained person. And before she before she inhaled and got some wind for the next line, I stopped her dead cold right in front of everyone. Stopped her. I said, excuse me. Would you please stand to one side for a moment and clean up your language? And everyone there was looked around me like going, like, Pichardo, I said, he's flipped. I was the one that lost my mind, right? Not them. So I said, look, no, we can't have you utter these words in the way you're saying, because why would you invoke the energy, the spirit of Yemaya, of our mother, and ask her to give this person who's now being reborn, why are you saying to her, give her what you have given me? In other words, give her in the image of my life, of me. I said, that is not acceptable, nor is it rational. I said, as far as I know, what you're saying to her is, go ahead and give her all the life trial and tribulations that I've gone through because of my human ignorance. Give her my irrationality as well. That's why I've got surgery. Give her all of the illnesses and sicknesses that I've suffered through as well. Because Yemaya, you've given me such a wonderful life. You see? My life has been so wonderful. Free from all this mundane craziness. Yeah. So here, put all that on to, transfer that in the image of myself. Transfer all that and make that part of this reborn person, the newborn, right? Put that into their baggage as well. And rather than saying, back to comments of enlightenment. Give Yemaya, mother, give this person the sanity that they need and the enlightenment that they need in their lifetime, in their journey. Because it's not about your journey, it's about that reborn person's journey, which is not yours. You know, may you bless her with, or him with the human capacity, with the sanity that is pure, that is well calibrated, that this person does not engage in contaminating the mind, that is not here to contaminate the soul of others, that is not here to contaminate our waters, that's not here to contaminate our environment. You see what I'm saying? In other words, instead of thinking straight, it is this Western toxic mind that everything is material and it's about the human. It's all about the human. Well, it's not. Not in the context of the annual forecast, it's not. The annual forecast saying is you have not been thinking straight. You have not been thinking straight. So yeah, look, I don't sit here and buy into this Western idea of the destruction of our planet and all this stuff. Okay.
I don't either.
What I am is, as an Orisha priest, very, very in tune and very in understanding what an Odu like this says to us, what this sign says to us, and that is back to the word dia, reciprocity. You're not, you're doing it to yourself here. Okay, you're the one that's doing it to yourself. Planet, they forget how planets are formed.
Very good. Yeah.
Right? They don't even look at the science about that. I mean, do people really believe that Mother Earth is afraid of us? You're messing around with the most incredible, monstrous machine who's being gracious enough to have fleas like us in it.
Yeah.
And yet, the Western mindset, the belief is that we are the God, that we are all controlling, that we control the womb of mom.
Yeah.
And that we're here to teach mom. You see? Really? Look at a woman look at a woman. I mean, what an incredible machine, right? This body fluid impregnates her. Come on, And from this body fluid, a human person comes out, right? This woman creates it and carries it in her womb. That is incredible, right? Yeah. And here comes, the newborn. Really? So are you saying to me that somehow the female value, that Mother Earth is scared of you? She'll suck you up in a heartbeat. She'll clamp up and you're never going to have she's going to clamp up and nobody's going to have a baby anymore, okay?
That's where we have to change. We have to start to change.
Mother Nature is the one that's in control. The women are in control here. They are life. They are the life. Is it? They are creators of that life. We're talking about progenitors. They are that progenitor of life. You mess with that progenitor, it's going to become sterile. Because something is going to cause. How many women today just simply don't have children because they've psychologically said, you know what, I'm not going to do this. It's not biological. It's not about her reproductive system. But by choice, they've sat there and said, you know what, I'm not having any children, period. That's the power of the female. That's the power of the female. I will have a child if I want to. And when I don't, I will not have a child, right?
Yeah, we have an opportunity.
What is it about not respecting that essence of the female? I don't understand. And we call it, and people have the audacity to say that they are nature worshippers. How so? How so? You have to show it in deeds. It has to be a way of life. This annual sign is the evolutionary process from the point of life to the point of its return, death, right? That's why it is the number 8, right? The infinity. Mm-hmm. Well, how are you going to make it to the other end? And how's this? Because again, it's back to reciprocity. The end is just physical. It's not spiritual. And we do believe that eventually, once it's spirit, it comes back into form. Right? And yoga speaks of that, right? The formless and form. Mm-hmm. And isn't that the creation or the essence of, isn't that what takes on or how our planet and stars and things of that nature are created? Is that not the Big Bang Theory? Of course it is. That's what we're talking about. That point of the Big Bang Theory, right? That's the moment of enlightenment. That's the moment of calibration of all things, where everything becomes interconnected and they're in perfect sync with each other, so that form can take place and live. It is the beginning of life, right? But what are we doing to keep that in check here? What are we contributing to? How are we getting along with that in our daily life? In our daily lives, how are we doing that? I'm not suggesting, and the yoga is not suggesting that we need to go back to living like cavemen. That's not what it's saying. But it is the concept of dwelling. Is it? It is very much the idea, the indigenous idea of dwelling. It is what it is not. Is the thinker symbol, right? It's not that. That thinker symbol is looking inward between your legs, looking down at one's genitals. Well, people need to get their heads out of there, and straighten up. Like the Buddha, straighten up. You know what, Oba, in regards to what you're saying, in regards to what Baba Mondesire is saying, is we have an opportunity, and us looking in between our legs. We're about to get real deep here. I'm about to go deep, family, because, we just doing it like that. What are we, when I think of this, Baba Ejiogwe, I think of Yamaya. What are we birthing into this reality from the unseen realms of reality? And we do this from a sexual orientation point of view, because we will continue the unlogical mental illness legacy through our children. I mean, this gets like real deep. Yamaya is really deep, and this letter's real deep. So it's just like, what are we birthing into this reality, not just with our hands, but between each other through the primordial waters of the unseen into the seen, so we don't have this legacy that you and Mondesire are speaking of, that you just said at the beginning, Mondesire. You talked about, Baba, the 7 generations. What are we going to get to the 7 generations? Well, if we don't look down in between the creation element of human beings, we will have this 7 generations down. And that's very profound. And by the way, we know that Yamaya's number is the element of 7. So we do have to look at that. What are we going to have
down the line. That's why I had to, stick that little tidbit in, because people think it's very mundane in nature. However, we are birthing physically, spiritually, and consciously many things on planet Earth that are in the flesh, that are through our minds, and they're being handed over to our children, who happens to be our living legacy after we leave and go to the other side of the infinity symbol. This is what we leave here. So this is how deep this gets. But we do have an opportunity, as you said, Baba Mondesire.
Yeah, the opportunity. Yeah, we really have to step up and actually apply a conscious personal game plan to act as the medicine, the antidote to all this stuff. Now, it's pretty overwhelming if we look at the large picture, but we got to start individually. And my suggestion is, one, the individual. Let's start with ourselves. Let's be more aware. Be committed to being aware of what's going on. So instead of the Super Bowl and instead of the technology channel, let's plug into the all the resources on the internet that focus on natural health, healing ourselves. So we take care of our own physical temple. We are more aware of the quality of water we drink. If we need filtration, which we do, let's get filtration. How about our nutrition? Okay, individual, right? Intake. Environmental awareness, ecology. So at the kitchen table, at the family gatherings, one-on-one conversations, instead of the business as usual conversations, let's begin to talk about Mother Earth as our mother. Now that's going to be radical to a lot of people. But let's talk about ecology. Mother Earth, we're connected. Mother Earth, the Hudson River, the Miami River, we're connected to those waterways. Did you know that? And then talk about some revelation that resounds with everybody. The content of the water we drink. Do you know how much sodium fluoride's in that water? Do you know sodium fluoride dulls the pineal gland? If we're so spiritually oriented, we don't want a dull pineal gland, third eye. Are you filtering out the sodium fluoride out of your water? Well, let me tell you what I'm doing. So we change the conversation on an individual level and a one-on-one, and then with our family members. So instead of the business as usual, we start to pepper our conversations with ecologically sensitive subject matter that everybody should be interested in. What's in it for me? What's the water you drink? The sodium fluoride, the chlorine in our water does damage. See? So let's try to clean up our water. Let's try to be more nutritionally understanding. Let's take it to the next level. I didn't know Colorado has its drought. I didn't know that you're suffering.
We're high desert.
How about West Virginia?
We're high desert.
High desert.
A lot of people don't know that.
Okay.
They think that Colorado is something else because of all this greenery, but it is high desert land.
Yeah.
Right. And you're in a metropolitan area, Denver. That's a major metropolitan area. Okay? So here's the takeaway message. In our everyday conversations, we should start to pepper our words with, 18 states in the United States that have drought conditions. The governor of California announced a drought emergency. West Virginia, a whole city in West Virginia, 300,000 people are drinking compromised water because of a chemical dump. Should we be compassionate? If we're spiritual, do we want this to happen to us? Are we next? So in our conversations, the way to begin to deal with a problem that's so mega in size is awareness. It's a call to consciousness. How are we going to impact 7 generations ahead if we're not talking about this to our first circle of people?
I also make a suggestion. You know what? I also,
Please?
and I'm giving a suggestion too, Baba, because I did this, and the only reason why I did this is because because in New York water is plentiful, but in Colorado it's scarce. I know my municipal water people. I've actually taken a tour of my municipal water folks. I know how my water is filtered. I've seen the process take place in my area. I also know how the water comes down. I also know where I can get free water in my area, just in case in my geographical area something is contaminated in nature and I don't, in my backyard, when I plant things, I use things that are ecologically compatible to nurture and give growth to the soil that doesn't go past the water table. That's what I did personally, just as an example, people. So.
Good. So that example, may I encourage you, because you inspire me. That level of education, if you can do so, pass it on to the next person or post it on your Facebook page. We all need that level of education. That's on a very personal level of your everyday activities. Because to change this monster, how are we going to do this on the mega? It's not going to happen on the mega. It's going to happen on the micro, one person at a time, with our wives, our spouses, our loved ones. Instead of talking about the day-to-day hum-de-dum that's on the TV, let's begin to become more ecologically aware. See, we need to be advocates of Mother Earth. Yemaya, Mother Ocean, Mother Earth. We need to be Yemaya's advocates and talk about this. See? Talk about, pepper our language with ecologic operational language. Now, let's wrap our heads around that one. Ecologic operational language. Well, let's go to Wikipedia. What does ecology mean? We're all connected. There's a symbiosis. There's a biodiversity. We're all connected, and all the organisms and all the aspects of nature have a co-relationship. Well, that's not a language that we vibe to for the most part in our society. Most of us vibe to a technological language. But us as spiritual people, I'm suggesting we start to pepper our language with a ecological advocacy. See? Even within our religious circles, we're supposed to be, right, Baba? We're supposed to be nature worshippers. But wait a minute, at Bember, we talk about, let's take care of Yemaya's waters. Let's take care of Oshun's waters. Let's take care of Mother Earth.
Well, the first thing that, one of the things that, for the listeners that don't know this.
Yes.
When we're in that environment and in the Orisha, the divinity possesses the human and manifests themselves, what's the first thing we do? We get a gourd with fresh water.
Yeah.
Right?
Precise.
Okay, so how clean is that water that we're giving back to the divine at that moment?
Yeah.
It's questionable.
Just raising a question. I'm just raising that question. Okay. All of our important rites of passages and ceremonies and what have you, water is essential to it.
Absolutely.
So we go to the river and we go there and take river water, right? And go back home or back to the location where we're going to be consecrating a sacred object or that of the priest or what have you. Has anybody asked and found out what's in that river water that they're bringing home? So it's funny because you go like, what an interesting contradiction, right? you're using water as a purifier of spiritually contaminated objects, in which you're going through your alchemy. You're going to construct this alchemy essentially for the exorcism of the impurities of the object that you're going to concentrate. And you're like, really? What's in the water? So you're using all this contaminated water to be the purifier. How can that be accurate? How does that make sense?
That's cognitively dissonant. That's cognitively dissonant.
It just simply doesn't make sense. And then I see our people, I went to divination and Ifa said that I must go and do this ritual at the river, or annual events or whatever. Oh, let's go to the river and tap into Mother Oshun, right? Yeah, okay, that sounds very religious and normal. All right, so then they go there, and then they start doing all their prayers and all their reverence to the energy of the river and all that, and then they take this pot of water or gourds full of water, and then they start pouring it on their heads, and they're praying, for Oshun to purify them and bless their bodies and their energy. Man, you just contaminated yourself on steroids. I mean, talk about, do you know what's in that river water that you're calling Oshun energy?
No.
Do you know? Because if you do that, let me tell you, if you do that in most areas down here in Florida, if you got hair color, if you dyed your hair, it probably melted down. That's how contaminated it is.
Wow.
Because it is known that we have this incredible problem with agricultural runoff.
That's right.
And it's right into that water. And that water nowadays is now, that runoff now goes underground, gets into that water, into those canals, into those rivers, and then that is now highly contaminating. That's part of the contaminants that's going right into the ocean. So the ocean has its own contaminants that's coming in, and then it's clashing and uniting and bonding with the stuff that we're doing on land. And that's the feeder, right? It's a constant circle of add-on and more add-ons of contaminants. And then that's the ritual water that we're using.
Yeah.
What about the emotional runoff? What about we talked about this too off air. What about let's just call a spade, since we're talking about Baba Ejiogbe and all the different levels of consciousness and water of Yemaya. What about the water in our bodies and our emotional aspect of reality? All of the oceans and rivers on planet Earth is collectively soaking in all of that emotional osobo from all the wars, all the fighting, all the not just that, but the contaminants, all of those things. Water holds, it holds emotional aspect of things that we give off. So, like you said, we're taking the water, we're washing ourselves with other people's, emotional runoff. And I don't mean to get deep, but let's just keep it real. That's what this is.
Well, we can get a little deep. I see all those candles behind you. You should get a little deep. Okay.
Well, here's the opportunity. We have an opportunity.
Let's get a little deep.
Yeah, we do. We have to take this very sobering reality, and when we microanalyze, it's going to get, make you want to disconnect. We got to look at the opportunity of water. Water is the blood of Mother Earth. Water is the blood, of Mother Earth. If we make the conscious decision to not be destructive parasites, most of humanity now are destructive parasites. That's the straight up real deal. If we make the conscious decision not to be a destructive parasite, but a constructive advocate for Yemaya, for Mother Earth, we will participate, one, in our own awareness, raising our consciousness, upgrading, and then educating people around us. So that 7 generations and we're just planting seeds. There's only so much we could do for the mega. But if we, because it's leadership here, it's spiritual leadership, begin with the education of folks in our circle from basics, I believe we can move this thing a little bit in the right direction. See? And again,
a lot in the right direction, I think, Baba. I think you underestimate. I think a lot in the right direction. I think.
Yeah. The ecological, we could pepper, like I said, pepper our language and our spiritual circles with people who are used to the old okie doke, the cliches, and the operational language has been accepted for 2, 3, 4 generations. That's like, all right, it's played out already. Let's start peppering our language with this new awareness, because we're advocate for who? Yemaya, Mother Earth. Ecological advocacy. Compassion for folks around the earth who are going through. Listen to this statistic. The world has experienced a global water crisis. Nearly 800 million people do not have access to safe drinking water, and more than 3.5 million people die each year from water-related disease, deaths that would be preventable with access to clean, safe water and sanitation. All right? So there's groups that deal with this issue up front. Most of us don't even talk about it. Most of us don't give thanks that we have relatively clean water to drink and sanitize ourselves every day. So part of our advocacy spiritually is to give thanks every day and to educate ourselves and those around us to move to the next level. See, the next level also is outright compassion for folks like yourself who are going through a drought condition, 18 states in the United States, drought conditions, municipal waterways that are having outright problems, like in West Virginia. Let's talk about this stuff. We might have to show some compassion in other ways.
So are you saying like creating a resource?
Here's the straight up. Here's the straight talk. Show compassion in other ways, because reciprocity, baby, if the pendulum does swing the other way, and in our own regions, we're faced with some challenges. We want compassion on us. Ogbe Alara talks about compassion. See, Ogbe Tua. So we put out compassion. We want the reciprocity for compassion to come out to us in terms of ecological compromises, like what you're going through in Colorado. So you follow this thought process? It is a paradigm shift, because even Einstein said...
Do you think that we should have resources? Like you're talking about the compassion and educating. Do you believe that we should put together resources and knowledge as a community, everyone on planet Earth, about the things that they know about that can actually enhance and empower the eye to do the logical aspect of reality? Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure I'm on the right page.
Absolutely. It really starts with education.
Okay.
It starts with education. We could talk and define the problems, but we don't have a way to upgrade by educating ourselves. It's going to be a frustrating path. Here's one person I recommend everybody Google, and this is like, she's like a Mother Teresa for the spirituality of Mother Earth. Dr. Vandana Shiva. Dr. Vandana Shiva, she's from India. She's a PhD in nuclear physics. She's very in a Western science context, she's a genius. But she is one of the most spiritual persons I've studied, because she has made the integration between the sciences and spirituality. And she's an advocate for the horrors that are going on in India with respect to the ecology and water and so forth. Mm-hmm. She speaks brilliantly. We should study her. She's like a manifestation of a Mother Orisha on the planet, in my opinion. Okay? And become comfortable with her operational language. See? Because when she talks to advocate for Mother Earth with scientific language and spiritual compassion that's on the level of Mother Teresa. So Dr. Vandana Shiva, okay? Another resource, there's a good Peak Water on Gary Knowles, PRN.FM, PRN.FM, do a search on Peak Water. Gary Knowles was a brilliant gentleman who does a lot of talk show on the web, provides tremendous resources for us to upgrade our thinking about the environment, about our health and nutrition and politics. Because, you know, our dear president really touches on this issue. A little word here, a little word there on global climate change and so forth, but not enough. Okay? There's another website, Thrive. It's actually a movie, and it's a DVD you could purchase that not only describes problems on this level, but solutions. Because we got to look at solutions now. All right? We're on Ecole here for just so long. When it comes time to move to the next level, what did you do down there? Mother Earth was going through a lot of processes. What did you contribute to heal? All right? There's people who are doing that work right now. Thrive. Go to the website, Thrive. And so those three resources to start. I think we have an opportunity to post other resources as we discover them on our Facebook pages and move the conversation from the bochinche level, because, boy, Facebook people love the bochinche. Okay, I know. But let's start to educate in our own circles, and that also includes our social media circles, because those are our spheres of influence. Okay? These are beginnings that we can control. A lot of the other things are hard to control. The chemical breakdown of our river water, our seawater, that's hard to control up front, except when we are mindful of what we flush down the toilet, except when we're mindful of what are we recycling, what kind of products are we buying, are they biodegradable? We can take more control in that area where we're conscious of the products that we use. So these mega problems could be approached in micro steps that are not overwhelming. Here's another thing I'm going to recommend. Us as priests and diviners and so forth, and we're doing the work, but you know what? Let's stop marking our bowls and offerings and sending that offering to the four corners, to the three corners in an urban area. Is that going to biodegrade? This might be controversial, but it's okay. We need to upgrade. Some of our own work, when it comes to offerings, when it comes to calibrating, helping a person get in realignment, if it's not biodegradable, if it's not sustainable, if it's going to contribute to this, what we're talking about, contamination, let's re-examine, and we might have to create another protocol to help this person realign with the larger universal picture without contaminating Mother Earth, without contributing to municipal waste. You follow my thought process. So, in a nutshell, we have homework to do. I think it's good homework. And I'll leave it there because I see both of you want to add.
Well, no,
Well,
you're good. I'm gonna take my picture out and take a potty break, and I just want to say this to the family because I want you guys to close out. And correct me, elders, if I'm wrong. But my elder, Oba Ernesto Pichardo, has always said that the Baba Ejiobe begins with I am, ourselves. So as the elders do what they do, because I want you to, be focused on them. Remember, don't get overwhelmed. This whole broadcast is not about being overwhelmed. It's not about anything. This is real talk. We do real 100 here. Y'all know me and Oba for a very long time and how we do. But the sign speaks of taking personal responsibility of I am. So I know that we have been socialized as human beings to look outward into the world and, this whole Superman save the world mentality. But Ejiobe also speaks of the beginnings, the I am, the light, if you will. This is why when we become priests, and I'm speaking to the priestly community, no matter what head you have a silver bracelet representing the infinity, the Obatala, the unseen being manifested into the seen through the human being, the one. Okay? So, don't get overwhelmed. If you just remember that and you do what your mission has brought you here to do, you will be fine. But, it begins with the I am. It's not about what everybody else is doing. It's about what you're doing and how you can shine that infinity, that light, that peace, that I am a piece of Olodumare into the world. That's all you got to worry about. I know it's overwhelming, but I just wanted to say that because I get overwhelmed talking to you elder people. But yeah, I just wanted to say that so people don't get overwhelmed. But you're absolutely on point in nature.
well, I'm going to end up with saying that in this religion we often wear the white clothing. It's part of our standard. White. What a yoga reminds us of is not about the outer whiteness that we wear.
Yeah.
It is about internalizing so that that whiteness is within. And what it's teaching us now is to look at and learn how to recognize that what may be white and shiny on the outside is chaotic and dark from within. And that needs to be looked at, detected, rationalized, and transformed so that the outer and the inner self are in sync, are within that principle of light. They cannot be in contradiction. And with that, I'll end up tonight's program. Baba, you want to add something?
Well, first, words of gratitude and thanks for the opportunity to share with both of you. I highly respect both of your work together as a team. It's needed. Our friendship and respect for each other goes high. So I'm honored that you invited me to speak. I like to share that we shouldn't be overwhelmed. As you raise your consciousness, this call to consciousness, it can become overwhelming because it's a sign that our sensitivity, our pineal gland is open up. The Irumale, the Orisha, our Eguns are speaking about these issues very clearly. And man, it's like, well, you know what? I have two choices. I could just say, later for this, I'm going to live like everybody else, enjoy my life, and like Nero, fiddle while Rome is burning. That's one path. But the next path is okay. I'm becoming more aware of all of this information. It's overwhelming, but what can I do? Well, we provided a step in the right direction. The second thing we all need to do is start to associate at our level and above. Because we need an inner circle of friends and associates who we can have conversations on this level and feel encouraged. We feel encouraged to make these adjustments from being a destructive parasite as a human being to a constructive advocate for Yemaya, for Mother Earth, for Olodumare, right? We need to have an association of friends who we can talk to using new operational language like we do. And yes, we talk and microanalyze problems, and let's do so. We definitely at the same time have to provide solutions to ourselves, so the problems don't overwhelm us, see? So I'm putting that out there so folks don't feel totally dejected and say, you know what, just put the Super Bowl on. I'm not going to deal with this crap. No. Let's take a proactive decision and step by step begin to educate ourselves. Step by step begin to associate with a different caliber of people who resonate on the same level. So it's not just Yemaya with her blue and white colors. It's where Yemaya is a manifestation of Mother Earth. As if we're looking at Mother Earth from the moon, blue-green, mostly ocean. See? I want to be an advocate for Yemaya. So if we look at the Urdu, Ire Shegun Ota, Baba Yogwe. Wait a minute. Is it Ire Shegun Ota for humanity or Ire Shegun Ota for Yemaya? If it's Ire Shegun Ota for Yemaya, I want to be on Yemaya's side. How about you? You follow me? Because Ire Shegun Ota for Yemaya, for humanity, is the dysfunctional child analogy you gave. It's not Ire Shegun Ota for humanity if people continue on that destructive, parasitical path. So let us calibrate to synchronize in sync with Yemaya's road to Ire Shegun Ota, meaning victory over obstacles. If the human being is the obstacle, right now, we don't want to be that type of human being. We want to be an advocate for Yemaya's game plan to put things back in order, right? Baba Yogbe, let's put things back in order. Let's be on that wavelength. And I hope that vibrates and resonates with you both, because that's from the heart. That's from the heart.
It most definitely does. I'm honored to have both of you all on the line. Again, family, make sure that when this is downloaded on YouTube that you share this link with your friends, your family, with humanity. Again, Baba Ejiogbé speaks of union. We are in union. As Oba has said many times on the air at the H20 Network, it's not about Orisha, Voodoo, Espiritismo, Catholic, whatever. Union of all. We need to come together. We need to speak of these issues, because let's not forget that Orisha speaks about not just me, Baba, and Oba. It speaks of humanity in a whole. It speaks of the individual, it speaks of outside of your doors, and it speaks of the whole collective. So we will continue to have this conversation on the H20 Network, on YouTube, and many other places. We are expanding. Spirit wants it that way, so I flow with Spirit, and we do what Spirit does. So you will be seeing the elders on the line speaking about all of the different elements of Baba Ejiogbé and many other enlightening things at Center for Community Knowledge. Make sure that you come hang out with me and Oba and Baba Mondesire, hanging out with us too, and comment. We want to know. We want your feedback. We want to hear from you. This is not just a form that you're seeing and things of this nature. We want to hear. We want union. That's what it's all about as well. Let's live in the light of the sun on the east, y'all. I thank you so much, elders, for joining me this evening. evening, and I send you lots of love. Family, we will be back very, very soon. I'm not even going to put a time on it. Bendition, very much so, Baba. And we're going to be here again, family. I'm not even going to put a time on it, because the way this year is moving, we're flowing like water. It is what it is. This is what Mama wants. So make sure that you hang out with us on Facebook, also on YouTube, Center for Community Knowledge, DIANUNEZ, Church of Lukumi, Babalawo, all of these things. Once you connect with me and Oba, you'll be able to connect with everyone else. I send you so much love, family. You're so much more than what you perceive yourself to be. And until next time, family, love y'all. Good night. Thank you, elders.
Good night. Ache.
All right.
Odawo.